Good morning. Thanks for all the feedback and comments regarding the shirt logo video that I put on. It was interesting to read for me, and encouraging in parts where some of the guys were saying our lads are actually quite proud to wear the shirt or whatever, and that's good, man. You know, whoever said that is you must be a very good leader to install that kind of pride and respect, because respect isn't assumed, is it? You know what I mean? You have to earn it, really. So well done. That was great. That was a nice touch. There was a few other comments, minority, that said, "Oh, this is too boring. You are boring. You have a boring voice. You talk too slow." Yeah, well, you know, it's you try talking for 20 minutes to a camera, unscripted, with nothing written down, and it's not as easy as you think, you know. So if I'm talking slow, it's because I'm not actually sure what I'm going to say next. So, like I say, it's not as easy as it looks. You know, be patient. Or you can always hit the unsubscribe button too. That's just there. No worries. But anyway, I have a similar topic today. Not similar, but it is a topic that I wanted to ask about. And so lots is made of equipment checks in regards to safety protocol, or call it. You know, equipment checks, replacement, renewal, whatever. You know, as part of a routine, a habit to get into. Call it what you want. So I do that to an extent. I usually remember if there's something wrong with my stuff anyway, because it either happens all of a sudden or it happens gradually, and so I'm aware of that. And but very little is said about actual, you know, head checks. You know, your emotional or psychological, your mental state on a given day, on a given task. And it's quite a big subject that nobody really talks about. You know, not training providers, you know, not no tutorials, no anything, guides, call it what you want, instructional videos, books, nothing, man. Nobody talks about that so much. But to me, it's just as relevant as checking equipments, you know, and what have you. And when you've been doing something a long time as well, you could argue that, and as good as accomplished as you become, there is also, with that, I think, increases the risk of becoming complacent. And in our job, you've only got to be complacent once, and the consequences could be quite dire, you know. It's not like if you work in an office and you get a paper cut and you just go and get a band-aid. You know, if you make a mistake, you know, with the kind of equipment we use, or, you know, you're working at height, it could be your last one ever. It could be the end of your life, you know. So, and I recognise this in myself, and I have done for years, you know. So what I did many years ago to try to combat it, you know, was I created like a false memory in my mind of something that didn't really happen, but when I kind of intensely imagined it lots of times on purpose, and the memory was about falling from a tree, falling quite a long way, and how the whole thing would feel, because although it may only take 3 seconds to hit the ground, I suspect it feels like a lot longer than that as your mind races, realizes what is happening to you before that initial, that you make contact with your final destination, the ground or somebody's roof or a fence or a wall or whatever. It's pretty horrific when you think about it, and it has happened to people, as we know. Lots of tree workers have fell to their death, sadly, but it does happen. So it just goes to show they may have been safe, worked fantastically throughout their career, and I tend to attribute most accidents down to absent-mindedness, and I felt it. Recognise it in my own game as well, where something becomes so routine that it's easy just to drift off somewhere else, and just it's almost like you carry on working subconsciously, but your mind is somewhere else. But it won't. And then at that point, you've only got to make the slightest of errors. Perhaps clip your lanyard into the wrong part of your saddle without thinking, or whatever, and it could be the last time it happens. Like I said earlier, because it's when that does happen, somebody unclips or cuts through the rope or does this or does that, and they pay the ultimate price. They die. You can't ask them what went wrong, or if they get knocked unconscious, they rarely remember what actually happened, how it came about. But I think it's down to absent-mindedness. It's not that they actually saw something different, or miscalculated, because 99% of the time those calculations have worked, when we're on our game, and because part of what you build in your experience is about predicting an outcome. You do something and you predict, because you can foresee what the outcome's going to be, and it usually works, the way you foresaw it happening. So I don't think it's that. I think people just zone out, and like I say, it's a very unforgiving job. So I like I say, I sort of practiced this, or envisaged this incident of me falling out of a tree. And I did it time and time over. A bit like meditating, I suppose. And it almost is real now. It's like it really happened. It's embedded in there so deep. And I thought about the consequences too, of how people would feel, the aftermath of it all, and who you leave behind. And it's a terrible thought. It makes me cringe thinking about it. But that's the desired effect. So I can now, it's all sort of condensed somewhere in my mind, and I can just push it like a button, and it makes me cringe, the thought. It's like something that nearly happened. When you see something nearly go wrong and you just cringe, you think, oh God, I don't want to think what may have just happened there. But to me, I've created that now, and it's in there. So, and I sort of push that button regularly now when I'm working, when I'm feeling even slightly distracted, I will push that button and it will make me cringe. You know what I mean? That thought, that memory, that thing that didn't really happen, but in my mind it's so real, you know, that it could have well have happened. And all of a sudden then I'm totally focused, I'm back where I should be, you know, everything looks clear, sounds are sharper, you know, and I just have that, I can see everything that you know, I'm back where I need to be. My focus is where it should be now. I'm no longer distracted or you know, thinking about what I'm going to do on Saturday. You know, I'm absolutely 100% focused because I'm aware again of the stakes of what's at risk and what I have to lose. So yeah, that's my trick, and I was wondering what you do, what anybody does. You know, is this an issue? Is it something you think about? You know, how do you combat complacency? You know, because everybody has the potential, like I say, and it just has to be that one time where your mind is somewhere else. You know, how do you have a technique, you know, that gets you back to where you need to be when you can feel yourself drifting off and you're sort of yawning and whatever, you know. So you know, so I mean, so that's it really. That's all I wanted to talk about. Hope it wasn't too uninteresting, but please do leave a comment, because like I said in the other video, this is stuff that interests me actually, and I'd love to know. I'd love to hear people's thoughts, because it is an interesting subject in a sense, and you know, our minds are the greatest attribute that we have, and it's everything has to go through there first before you know what I mean, before we put our bodies into action, you know. But nobody talks about it. Like, you know, they just talk about a lot of the same old shit, all these training providers and what have you. You know, it's fucking same stuff they've been saying for 30 years, you know. And then when somebody unclips themselves and falls out of a tree, it's like, oh, that was terrible, but check your gear, you know. Anyway. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and please leave a comment, like I say. Let me know, let's hear your techniques on the matter. Cheers.